The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning, I'm John David Wells. What do we do here? We report the news, honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. In short, we de-propagandize the mainstream media. We make commentary that is not news. Commentary is opinion, yours and mine. And so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Speaking of debate, GOP candidates for the Republican nomination got together last night. That leads the news along with the House Oversight Committee. They are indeed moving forward with an impeachment inquiry on President Joe Biden. We'll have more about that as the morning progresses. But it's time now for the front page. Let's get to that. The front page, of course, a digest of what happened after yesterday's show while we slept coming into this morning. Now it's time for the Wells Report front page for Thursday, September 28th, 2023. In national news, the takeaways on a messy debate is how CNN leads their coverage today. The second 2024 Republican presidential primary debate ended just as it had begun, with former President Donald Trump, who hadn't appeared alongside his rivals on stage in any debate, as the party's dominant front runner. The 7 GOP contenders' last night's showdown at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley, California, provided a handful of memorable moments, including former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley unloading on what seemed to be like an entire field's pent-up frustration with entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy. "Honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little dumber for what you say," she said to him at one point. Two candidates criticized Trump's absence as well. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said he was missing in action. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie called the former president Donald Duck, saying he likes to duck behind his golf clubs rather than defending his record on the debate stage. USA Today covered it like this: 7 candidates desperately seeking to loosen Donald Trump's grip on the Republican presidential nomination squared off of their second debate last night, clawing at each other for airtime, but sparingly taking shots at the frontrunner and former president, who keeps ignoring them. The 2-hour debate, hosted at the Ronald Reagan Library in Southern California, seemed to do little to change the dynamics of a race dominated by Trump from the very beginning. Instead, at several moments, the conversation descended into chaotic bickering and name-calling, with candidates talking over each other while Trump campaigned in Michigan. By the way, this is Fox Business News look at it. The Republican presidential debate was filled with memorable moments and lines as candidates clashed on stage for the second time of the 2024 election cycle. The debate features tense exchanges between candidates, with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former Vice President Mike Pence, businessman Vivek Ramaswamy, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, Senator Tim Scott, and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie trading blows. The Drudge Report poll had Haley winning the votes, or winning the debate last night, with DeSantis second, Ramaswamy third, Christie fourth, Burgum with 5% of the vote, Scott with 3%, and Pence came in dead last in a poll that had 71,503 votes. President Trump did respond to heated criticisms from his primary opponents during the second GOP debate, saying it was much more important for him to work to save auto workers last night than to appear at the debate because of his massive lead in the primary polls, and then dismissed Chris Christie's Donald Duck name for him. Quote, "I have a 56-point lead. For me, dealing with the UAW and the fact that President Biden and his administration is going to destroy their jobs over the next 2 years by going all electric when it comes to vehicles," Trump told Fox News in an exclusive interview last night. Trump spoke before a crowd of auto workers in Clinton Township, Michigan. That happened last night, pleading that if elected, the future of the automobile will be made in America. Elsewhere in national news, federal judge Tanya Chutkan has refused to recuse from Trump's conspiracy trial. This from USA Today. U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan rejected Donald Trump's request to remove herself from his election interference case, saying her statements at sentencing did not suggest the former president should be jailed, as alleged by the Trump defense team. Trump's team had asked Chutkan to remove herself because of statements she made while sentencing two rioters convicted in the Capitol attack January 6, 2021. Trump lawyers argued the comments revealed that Chutkan thought the former president should be tried and jailed. But Justice Department lawyers said Chutkan had not shown bias against Trump when she was rejecting pleas for leniency from rioters who blamed others for their actions. The lawyers argued Trump was cherry-picking quotations from the sentencing hearing. As we just discussed, the Biden impeachment committee begins their work today. They're going to call witnesses. This from Roll Call. House Republicans plan to have 3 witnesses testify today at their first hearing on the impeachment investigations of President Joe Biden, with conservative lawmakers saying that they will be used to outline the basis for their high-profile probe. The House Committee on Oversight and Accountability said the hearing would examine the value of an impeachment inquiry and outline information regarding President Biden. Democrats dismissed the inquiry as baseless. Committee Chairman James Comer of Kentucky said in an interview yesterday, the committee will go over all the evidence they've accumulated so far. The discussion will include information he released that the committee shows that President Biden's son, Hunter, received payments that originated from Chinese nationals, information Speaker McCarthy mentioned at a press conference on Tuesday. Comer, in announcing the hearing, said the panel will hear from experts about crimes the Bidens may have committed. The committee announced that witnesses will be Bruce Dubinsky, a forensic accountant, Eileen O'Connor, a former assistant attorney general of the Justice Department's tax division, and Jonathan Turley, a legal scholar and college professor who has testified in the previous impeachment inquiries. By the way, House Republicans have revealed hundreds of internal IRS Biden documents. CNN reports the documents released yesterday by House Republicans shed new light on how 2 IRS agents who investigated Hunter Biden felt that they had hit roadblocks whenever President Biden's name came up in the criminal probe. Also, some of the email exchanges Republicans cite as evidence of a DOJ effort to protect Joe Biden and interfere with the Hunter Biden probe occurred during Donald Trump's presidency and while Bill Barr was the Attorney General. The roughly 700 pages of internal government documents became public after a party line vote by the House Ways and Means Committee. The trove includes emails among IRS agents and Justice Department prosecutors, internal IRS reports, transcripts of interviews with witnesses in the criminal probe, handwritten notes from the meetings, and much more. In news of the states this morning, Hawaii, the Maui residents from Lahaina and elsewhere are seeking accountability from Washington, this being reported by USA Today. At a restaurant table a couple of miles south from the U.S. Capitol, a group of 8 grieving family members and survivors of the Maui wildfires for the first time met as they flew in from across the country to get some answers. The group came together in the last few weeks with one commonality. The Lahaina fire left a permanent imprint on their lives. Now, they were seeking answers as to whether the fatal disaster last month could have been prevented. Quote, "I feel like we bonded in a way you can't explain," unquote, said Kathleen Henricks, whose sister died in the fire disaster last month. And now that bond, the impact of the tragedy on their families, will be center stage in Washington. The U.S. House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigations is conducting a hearing today to investigate Hawaiian Electric's possible role in the fires. Shali Kimura, she is the CEO and president of the utility company, along with executives from the Hawaii Public Utilities Commission and the Hawaii State Energy Office, are all expected to testify. From Maryland, CNN reports that a convicted felon suspected in the killing of tech executive Pava Lepere in Baltimore this week has been arrested. This ended a day-long manhunt across the city, according to police. Jason Dean Billingsley was wanted on first-degree murder and other charges in connection with the death of Lepere, the 26-year-old CEO of Baltimore-based startup EchoMap Technologies, this according to the Baltimore Police Department. Police did not immediately provide details about the arrest, but said more information would be announced in a news conference at 11 a.m. Eastern Time today. Hollywood, California. A writer's deal could set a standard against AI. This from CNN Business News. The Writers Guild of America this week became the first major labor union to secure a contract guaranteeing its members protections from the rapidly developing AI technology, which is poised to displace innumerable jobs in the coming years. After nearly 150 days on strike, the screenwriters secured a number of groundbreaking wins in their new contract with major film and television studios. The terms, shared by the Guild, will prevent the studios from using AI to write or rewrite material, from forcing writers to use AI software when producing scripts and editing AI for screenwriting, among other things. Quote, Guild reserves the right to assert exploitation of writers' material to train AI is prohibited by the contract or other law, unquote. The WGA summary of the terms added, though it was not a total victory for the writers and studios, did retain some rights to use AI. Elsewhere in technology, concerns are now being voiced by the use of autonomous drone weapon systems. This from The Hill. As the Defense Department is pushing aggressively to modernize its forces using fully autonomous drones and weapon systems, critics fear the start of a new arms race that could dramatically raise the risk of mass destruction, nuclear war, and civilian casualties. The Pentagon and military tech industry are going into overdrive in a massive effort to scale out existing technology in what has been called the Replicator Initiative. It envisions a future force in which fully autonomous systems are deployed in flying drones, aircraft, water vessels, and defense systems, connected through a computerized mainframe to synchronize and command units. Arms control advocates fear the worst and worry existing guardrails to offer insufficient checks given the external risks or the existential risks. Critics call self-operating weapons killer robots or slaughter bots because they are powered by artificial intelligence and can technically operate independently to take out targets without human help. Elsewhere in destruction news, the Jerusalem Post is reporting an expert says that Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed by an asteroid impact. An ancient city that met a fiery end could be in what could be described as a new asteroid impact theory, more powerful than an atomic explosion, has been identified as the biblical city of Sodom. This according to biblical studies experts. Dr. John Bergsma, a prominent theologian, contends the excavations in Jordan provide substantial proof that one of the Bible's most dramatic and improbable narratives may indeed be factual. Bergsma asserts that the archaeological findings in Jordan corroborate the existence of the biblical city of Sodom. Prior research has already indicated that the ancient city of Tel Al-Haman, located in the southern Jordan Valley, suffered a catastrophic fate, a revelation that Dr. Bergsma, a theology professor at Ohio's Franciscan University, believes aligns with the biblical account. As per the book of Genesis, God unleashed brimstone and fire on the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah in response to the sins of their inhabitants, resulting in complete obliteration. Similar destruction patterns were uncovered at Tel Al-Haman, leading Bergsma to reevaluate the credibility of the biblical narrative. He said he pointed to signs of extreme heat detected on skeletons and pottery fragments unearthed by archaeologists, suggesting a possible impact from an asteroid. And finally, out of Florida, the lucky player who won the $1.6 billion Mega Millions prize has stepped forward to claim his winnings according to the Florida Lottery. Unfortunately, nobody knows who that person is. He or she won the $1.6 billion in a supermarket in Neptune Beach, Florida. We'll have more information in about 90 days because that's when the name can be announced. And that is today's front page. Coming up in just a couple of seconds, we've got complete coverage of the GOP debate last night at the Ronald Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California. It was a lot like the first debate. There were good moments and a number of hugely bad moments, and we'll be discussing all of it in just a couple of moments.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Thanks very much for joining us. There are realities when political policy intersects with basics of life, like law enforcement. And those realities are coming in the form of major retailers moving away from communities where crime is essentially tolerated by the people running the cities. This out of New York. Business leaders are expressing alarm after Target became the latest retailer to blame crime for pulling the plug on their stores. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is deeply concerned with the increasing reports of stores closing in communities across the country due to large-scale theft and looting, said Tom Wickman, Senior Vice President of the State and Local Policy Division at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. This according to CNN. No store should have to close because of theft. Target sent shockwaves through the industry on Tuesday this week by saying it will close 9 stores across 4 states because of large-scale theft. It's not clear whether stores were underperforming or reaching their revenue goals. Target did not comment on this or provide data on theft from the stores. Target previously said it was expected to lose $500 million on this year's theft, and that number was rising. Apple, Lululemon, and other stores were looted overnight in Philadelphia. We reported that yesterday. It resulted in dozens of arrests. And that, by the way, is going to be a long-term issue. It's going to take a while for law enforcement to catch up with what I believe is something that got started not just recently, but during the justice rights riots of the summer of 2020. Remember, one of the leading problems with theft in retail stores, they're at Target stores, and Target is reacting by closing 9 of their stores. That was one of the famous pieces of video from the social justice riots of 2020, where a Target store was looted just unbelievably wantonly, with people going so far as to take washing machines out of the store. And this is something that has continued. Why? Well, because in 2020, the people running the cities where all this was happening, Wendy's being burned down, et cetera, they tolerated the conduct of the rioters, saying, well, they're trying to blow off steam, or they have a righteous complaint. Well, that stops when you start stealing stuff, as far as I'm concerned. But that's just my opinion. But here we are in a position where, yeah, there are serious and important implications and accountabilities that come with bad political policy. The bad political policy of trying to eviscerate police departments from one end of the country to the other, for example, now being reversed, but the damage is done. These are coordinated attacks being coordinated across social media. And they go out and they create a misdirection, and then they show up in mobs at other stores, and that's exactly what happened in Philadelphia. Philadelphia police reacted very, very well and made some 20 arrests, but there were literally hundreds, if not 1,000 or so people taking part in these attacks, in these massive shoplifting gang attacks. And now these people are closing their stores. I saw the same thing happen in Detroit, Michigan. And this was a very, very long time ago. When I moved to Detroit, it was the 6th largest city in the United States. Now, it's barely in the mid-20s because people simply left. They left because of political policy. They left because of Detroit becoming a place where you weren't safe. And that is going to happen with the rest of these cities. And they are gigantic, and the infrastructure is huge, and that requires a lot of tax money, and you can't get those taxes paid if nobody's living in your city. You go downtown in a lot of these major cities, and you'll find boarded up office buildings because of all this. Of course, COVID had something to do with it, but still, at the end of the day, these companies, these corporations will react to this rising crime and take part in making sure their employees are safe in these major metropolitan areas. Wells Report is continuing. Stay put.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
And good morning. This is the Wells Report. We played the wrong stop set. We did some wonderful things today or yesterday. We have new commercials, and unfortunately, one of them is in the wrong place, and I don't know exactly how I managed that, but by golly, I sure did. And so we came back a little bit early from that, but that's okay because frankly, we can use the time. And so let me see. Let me get this all together. And yeah, I'm going to have to do a little bit of work on this in time for the next particular break. Oops. This is one of the things that happens when, things don't work exactly the way they're supposed to. But let's get back to the business at hand. And we'll have a music bed here. Well, actually, I'll just turn it down so we don't have to worry about that. Let's talk a little bit about the GOP debate. The GOP debate last night at the Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California. It was one of those debates that proves a bunch of different things. First of all, when people debate, when there are 7 people on stage, there's going to be a food fight. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be maddening, and it's going to be ineffective. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, CNN called it a messy debate, as they should. That is a very apt description of what happened last night. USA Today, on the other hand, has 6 takeaways as they go back and take a look at what's going on. 7 candidates desperately seeking to loosen Donald Trump's grip on the Republican Party got together last night in Simi Valley. They clawed at each other for airtime. They talked over each other. The 2-hour debate hosted at the Ronald Reagan Library seemed to do little to change the dynamics of a race dominated by former President Donald Trump, who was not there. And the decision to not be there looks smarter every minute as these debates descend into chaos. Several moments, the conversation descended into bickering and name-calling, candidates talking over each other, et cetera, et cetera. Trump was dinged for failing not to show up, something that he set aside very, very easily by saying, hey, the most important thing for me to do is to be with the UAW workers, and that's exactly what he did at Clinton Township in Michigan yesterday. The Iowa caucuses are set for January. Candidates have 3 more months to emerge as a top alternative to President Trump and his massive lead. Here are some of the takeaways from USA Today. So Chris Christie, who is a noted Trump critic, called President Trump Donald Duck for ducking the debates. There's no real reason for Donald Trump to show up, especially when there is very little civility in these debates. There is no point in him being center stage and being given pot shots from his left and his right on one of those programs until they get control of some of these candidates, until they winnow the field a bit. Then there's no reason for Donald Trump to show up, and a lot of people can say whatever they want to. Throughout the debate, the rivals were more aggressive with each other than the former president, turning to zingers to try to grab voter attention and trying to get some laughs. Some of the one-liners fell flat. "Build back broker," said Senator Tim Scott. I actually thought that was a pretty good line. This is an article from USA Today, so it's a bit biased. Former President Mike Pence said Joe Biden doesn't belong on a picket line. He belongs on the unemployment line. Once again, I don't think that was a bad line either. And as a matter of fact, it was a very small crowd because that's a small building. It was in the pavilion where the former Air Force One that Reagan used so famously to fly around the world and do his foreign policy. This is a pavilion there, and it doesn't have a lot of room for a lot of people, and they were far away from microphones. They were not mic'd. And so some of the responses did draw some of the lines did draw a response, but what ended up happening is that those responses were not heard on the national broadcast. And so that was one of the reasons why some of these lines appeared to fall flat. The most awkward moment came when Christie, slamming the teachers union, made a reference to First Lady Jill Biden. When you have the President of the United States sleeping with a member of the teachers union, there's no chance you could take the stranglehold away from the teachers union every day. And Pence then weighed in, which was sad. "My wife isn't a member of the teachers union, but I've got to admit I've been sleeping with a teacher for 38 years. Now that was a line that fell flat. He looked awkward giving it, and it was something that was better left unsaid. I will say something about Mike Pence. Mike Pence is a guy who is trying to be the elder statesman, and he's got more elder than statesman. It's not working. USA Today reports the candidates were asked about supporting Ukraine, which has divided congressional Republicans amid the government showdown. Most on stage said the U.S. could or should continue to provide military aid. Ramaswamy, on the other hand, continued to defy the herd. He said Russian President Vladimir Putin is evil, but that doesn't mean that Ukraine is good. That is part of his larger belief that China is the bigger international threat, which is why he supports showing Russia or allowing Russia to seize the eastern half of Ukraine. Tim Scott, the senator from California, did a good job last night. He got set aside in the Drudge polling that had him basically at the bottom of the field, but he had a very good night last night. He was mocked for being too nice and not saying much during the first debate. He tried to change that by tussling with his opponents more. During a question on immigration, Scott went after Ramaswamy for his previous comments that all other contenders were bought and paid for. I can't imagine how you can say that knowing you were just in business with the Chinese Communist Party. The same people who funded Hunter Biden with millions of dollars was a partner of yours as well. This doesn't actually transcend into reality. This was something that I thought maybe looked really good in discussions regarding debate show prep before they actually went on stage, but this didn't work. Ramaswamy is an entrepreneur. He is a businessman. You cannot be a businessman, especially at Ramaswamy's level, without doing business with China. This is low-hanging fruit, and I don't think Scott did himself any good. But Scott later took DeSantis to task for a provision in Florida school curriculum that suggested that slavery offended or offered enslaved Americans benefits, which gave the South Carolina senator a moment to declare America is not a racist country. The shining city on the hill needs a brand new leader. By the way, that was kind of contrived in this biased report from USA Today, because Scott had a brilliant statement on slavery, and we'll be showing that to you a little bit later on. Near the end of the debate, Scott went after Haley, a fellow South Carolinian who has the better experience on and gas taxes, saying her time as governor was inadequate. She came back with "Bring it, Tim." That was a good line for her, but she looked a bit shrill, and you'll see this for yourself. She was argumentative, and she essentially tried to run over people that talked to her. The Biden campaign zeroes in on Trump. The Biden campaign spent as much time rapidly responding to the frontrunner who wasn't present than the 7 Republicans on stage. It underscored how President Biden is already preparing for a rematch of the 2020 election. It looks like he's destined to be the nominee again, Biden said of Trump last week at a fundraiser in New York. Trump spoke at an auto supplier in Clinton Township, Michigan. The Biden campaign on social media accused the former president of lying about his push for electric vehicles and failing to rebuild the U.S. manufacturing industry like he promised. So that was a lot of that. Let's get to some of these exchanges. Let's talk a little bit about Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley had very good responses regarding education. She was very good last night. She did a very good job, except when she was taking shots at her colleagues. When she started doing that, she started talking too fast. Her voice became very edgy, and she ended up looking like she was bickering instead of debating.
First of all, is we have to acknowledge the fact that 67% of our 8th graders are not proficient in reading or math. Over 80% of our 8th graders aren't proficient in history or civics. And recently they came out and said our 12 and 13-year-olds are scoring at the lowest levels they've been scoring in reading and math in decades. So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to make sure we catch our kids back up. We have to make sure they can read. A child that can't read by 3rd grade is 4 times less likely to graduate high school. We need to do reading remediation. We need complete transparency in the classroom. No parent should ever wonder what's being said or taught to their child in the classroom. We need to make sure that we have school choice so that there's competition. We need to move all the programs from the federal government down to the states and let states decide what education looks like in their states. Right. And we need to start building things in America again. Let's put vocational classes back in our high schools, and let's get our kids building the things that we know that we can make. When we start to focus on that and really bring in that parental involvement, that's when we'll start to see a difference. But we've got to get parents back included. We've got to quit spending time on this DEI and CRT and instead focus on financial literacy, on digital literacy, and on making sure that our kids know what they need to do to have the jobs of the next generation.
All right, that was really good. She really did handle herself extremely well on that particular circumstance. Also, somebody that did very well was North Dakota Governor, I can't remember his first name, Burgum. He and Haley got together and talked a little bit about what was going on. This was a healthcare discussion, and once again, is it Gary Burgum? I believe that's his name. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to look this up. There's so much information today that it's hard to keep a bunch of that stuff straight. This is North Dakota Governor Gary Burgum, I believe is his name. That's what I'm going to stick with until I correct myself, and Nikki Haley.
First of all, how can we be the best country in the world and have the most expensive health care in the world? We have an issue. My mom was in the hospital, and when she was in the hospital, they tried to bring her a couple of Tylenol, and she said, I don't need it. And they said, honey, go ahead and take it because you're paying for it anyway. Why is it that when we got the bill, the insurance company and the hospital negotiated the bill for her without her having anything to do with it? When I am president, we will break all of it, from the insurance company to the hospitals to the doctors, because you're paying for it anyway. Why is it that when we got the bill, the insurance company and the hospital negotiated the bill for her without her having anything to do with it? When I am president, we will break all of it, from the insurance company to the hospitals to the doctor's offices to the PBMs to the pharmaceutical companies. We will make it all transparent, because when you do that, you will realize that's what the problem is. Second thing is you've got to deal with tort law. The doctors don't give you the 10 tests because they want to. It's because of the 90% chance they'll get sued. And then we need to bring competition back to healthcare, get rid of certificate of need systems, and make sure that they can compete. We have to put the patient in the driver's seat. They've been in the back seat for way too long. And once we give the patient the ability to decide their health care, deciding which plan they want, that is when we will see magic happen. But we're going to have to make every part of the industry open up and show us where their warts are, because they all have them, and we need to fix this on behalf of the American people.
And that's what we did. Do you have a better way in 30 seconds? Well, yes, we're not talking about the real problem ever. We talk about why do we have the most expensive health care in the world? It's because the federal government got involved the same way they did with EVs, and they said, we're going to subsidize a particular kind of software back in 2008 under Obama, and they said, hey, we're going to do this. It's going to make everybody more productive. All of you that are watching have been to a doctor's office when the doctor's got his back to you and their hands on a keyboard. The only industry in the world that's ever absorbed $1 trillion of IT and became less productive. They saw less patients per day is U.S. kind of technology. It wasn't about improving health care. It was about picking winners and losers. Every time the federal government's involved, whether it's higher education, health care, or now the auto industry, things get more expensive and less competitive.
Yeah, this is a flaw in the system that they have here. There is not enough time for these candidates to be able to actually say what they're going to say. People like me spend our entire lives learning how to be concise. These people are not necessarily schooled in that. And oh, by the way, do you really want your politicians to be so adept at communicating that they don't appear real? Former Arkansas governor, oh gosh, I'm playing mental blocks with names today. There are very slick politicians. Mike Pence suffers from this. He is such a good politician that he is not believable at sometimes. And that's hurting him, as a matter of fact. That is. Vivek Ramaswamy had a really good night. He was able to be less obnoxious. And also what he was able to do was able to poke a little bit of fun on himself. Hopefully this is the video that I'm thinking of. I'll explain if not. But this is Vivek Ramaswamy last night.
I have to be very clear about this. Transgenderism, especially in kids, is a mental health disorder. We have to acknowledge the truth of that for what it is. I met two young women early in this campaign.
On parental rights in schools.
Parents have the right to know. And you know what the hypocrisy of this is? Even New Hampshire failed to actually get past a piece of legislation here. The very people who say that this increases the risk of suicide are also the ones saying that parents don't have the right to know about that increased risk of suicide. And I'm sorry, it is not compassionate to affirm a kid's confusion. That is not compassion, that is cruelty. I met two young women, Chloe and Katie, early in this campaign, who are in their 20s, now regret getting double mastectomies and a hysterectomy. One of them will never have children. And the fact that we allowed that to happen in this country is barbaric. So I will ban genital mutilation or chemical castration under the age of 18, and parents have absolutely the right.
Would you try to pass a federal law that says parents should have that right?
We are going to require states absolutely have to follow that through.
Governor Burgum
we stand for parental rights. Yes.
You in your state.
Yeah, that was not the one, but he sits there and he says, I'm the new guy on this, and I've got to make sure that what we do is I get credibility with you. And he says he comes across as kind of a know-it-all sometimes. And he was very, very good. It was very disarming. Hopefully we'll be able to find that. I think that might be in the next one regarding social media. We don't have time to play that before the break. But last night's debate, once again, there were brilliant moments on the part of everyone. Everybody did well, but they also got submerged in the fact that there were too many voices talking too often at the same time. And it became a food fight, and it was chaotic. And Donald Trump is doing the exact right thing by standing off and waiting for the field either to get smaller or for the field to discover that they have to communicate as a group instead of as individuals trying to stomp on each other to be able to get the Republican nomination. And this is something else that the Republicans the Republican candidates need to deal with. What they need to do more than anything is they need to understand that you cannot trash your fellow candidates. The Republican debates, all debates basically, are about what you believe should happen. And what you need to do is you need to transmit that. Don't talk about necessarily your accomplishments in office. Talk about the accomplishments you hope to gain and actually affect as President of the United States. And they need to learn that. And they need to stop hammering on each other. Ronald Reagan, where this debates his presidential library, was famous for his 11th commandment. Thou shalt not talk ill of thy fellow Republican candidate. And they haven't learned that lesson. And until they do, you're going to see these people essentially talk themselves right out of the nomination. That's what I believe. What do you believe? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. This is the Wells Report. Hopefully the right spot cluster back in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. We are bringing you full coverage of last night's GOP debate. The candidates got together. There were good moments. We've brought most of those to you, courtesy of the unsparing work by executive producer, the great Dirk Steele. By the way, it is Doug Burgum. I don't know where Gary came from. But as far as I'm concerned, he should rename himself Gary so that I look less stupid. DeSantis had a very nice night last night and made some very good statements. A lot of people believe that Ron DeSantis won the debate.
So first of all, that's a hoax that was perpetrated by Kamala Harris. We are not going to be doing that. Second of all, that was written by descendants of slaves. These are great Black history scholars, so we need to stop playing these games. Here's the deal. Our country's education system is in decline because it's focused on indoctrination, denying parents' rights. Florida represents the revival of American education. We're ranked #1 in the nation in education by U.S. News and World Report. My wife and I, we have a 6-, 5-, and 3-year-old. This is personal to us. We didn't just talk about universal school choice, we enacted universal school choice. We didn't just talk about Parents' Bill of Rights, we enacted the Parents' Bill of Rights. We eliminated critical race theory, and we now have American civics in the Constitution in our schools in a really big way, just like President Reagan asked for in his farewell address back in 1989. Florida is showing how it's done. We're standing with parents, and our kids are benefiting.
Yeah, that was really good. And that is one of the things that Ron DeSantis decorated the evening with. While a lot of people were doing their best to essentially make themselves look silly, Ron DeSantis was actually scoring with debate points. Anybody that has done any kind of debate scoring would look at what Ron DeSantis did and said winner hands down, just based on the points that he made. By the way, when he was talking about the actual skills about slavery, that's what that tape started off with, or that's what that recording started off with. Those accusations that somehow he was apologizing for slavery based on the skills the slaves learned, he said right off the top that was a hoax. Here is Ron DeSantis a little bit later on in the evening.
You look at how our societies develop, they have huge amount of power over our society. They've cracked down on free speech. We're not saying you don't want them to do business, but you want it to be a free market. And right now they're monopolies. But this issue of China, I think, is really going to be fundamental. We have subcontracted out so much of our national needs to the CCP. We rely on them for a whole host of issues. We need to reshore and we need to decouple all those important industries. We need to get that back in the United States. They are our top geopolitical adversary by a country mile. Xi Jinping's got huge ambitions, not only in the Asia Pacific, but as you mentioned earlier, in our region. But ultimately, we've got to beat him on the economy. And so that's what we'll do as President of the United States.
All right. Ron DeSantis has an interesting little move that he needs to stop. When he gets finished by saying, and that's what we'll do as the President of the United States, or any of his points, he goes to this frozen smile look. Yeah, and that's what we're going to do as President of the United States. He needs to stop that. He just needs to make his statement, then look down at his notes, what have you. That would be something that would help him immeasurably. We were discussing Ramaswamy, and this is what Vivek had to say. Oh, yeah, maybe I should do this. Hi. Yeah, I keep forgetting to hit the button. So much stuff to do today. So many videos. Let's see, do I have time to do this? No, I don't. Anyway, we'll bring this back a little bit later on. The point of the matter in all of this is indeed that the Republicans did a pretty good job in most cases handling this, but the bickering has got to stop. It absolutely has to stop. And the shrill attacks on each other. This is a problem that Nikki Haley is going to have to take care of. By the way, I think I also said while correcting things, I think I also said that Senator Tim Scott was from California. No, he's from South Carolina. Anyway, lots of material, but let's keep rolling. The circumstance here that I see is that these candidates need to remember that they are running for president. And they need to act presidential as opposed to a bunch of people having an argument. I've said this over and over and over on the Wells Report. I've said arguments are boring, and arguments are boring, and they're frustrating, and they make you angry, and people just leave. They just disappear. And they should just disappear because there's not communication handling. Now, this is kind of at contrast with what I said about Mike Pence. Mike Pence was somebody who is trying to be the elder statesman here. He's trying to be the adult in the room, which itself is not a bad idea, except that when he does that, he looks old. He also has a tendency to pause. When people say, Mr. Governor Pence, what do you think? He'll go, well, or something along that line, which is a famous Reagan device as he was getting his thoughts together. But it's also beginning to look like he's being plodding. And so there's a fine balance for all of these candidates, and they're doing their absolute dead level best to strike the balance between appearing to be someone in complete command of what they're trying to present, and also trying to get attention, and also trying to speak in the very compressed time frame that you have available here. The famous debates of the past, the ones that were, say, for example, before television, they lasted hours And the reason is because it took that time to be able to get all these things out, and they had to be civil. And they were before crowds of people standing there. So they did have to move through these debates with a bit more eye on actual content. Now what they're trying to do is come up with small sound bites that will look good on an evening newscast. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in just a moment.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning for the Wells Report, and make sure you share us with all your friends on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon, and don't forget to check out our Substack column, which will be coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. When you do all this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us those thumbs up. They are really important. Check the notification box so you know when we're on the air, and whatever you do, join us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, for the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning, I am John David Wells. What do we do here? So glad you asked that question. We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. In short, we de-propagandize the mainstream media. And that is something that I believe is absolutely necessary. We do make commentary. However, that is not news. That is opinion, both yours and mine. Yours and mine. And so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. We are discussing what happened last night at the Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California, where the Republican candidates got together for debate number 2. What they did was not much from debate number 1. The same topics were discussed, and the same food fights ensued, etc., etc. There were some improvements. Ron DeSantis really handled the chaos very, very well. I would say that Ron DeSantis won the debate last night, although a lot of people are looking at Nikki Haley as the winner. There were other people saying very good things. A couple of those people involved happened to be Vivek Ramaswamy and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. And Tim Scott also worked extremely well with being above the fray and handled himself a lot better than, say, for example, people are saying he did in the regurge of what happened last night. Check this out. This is Vivek Ramaswamy and Tim Scott together.
Would you fire thousands of striking auto workers today, Senator?
Obviously, the President of the United States cannot fire anybody in the private sector. However, we should look back at the first bill in Congress under Joe Biden. The first bill had $86 billion for the union pensions because they continue to overpromise yet underdeliver. One of the challenges that we have in the current negotiations is that they want 4-day French work weeks, but more money. They want more benefits, working fewer hours. That is simply not going to stand. I sat in a finance committee hearing when a widow came before the committee who was promised pensions from the unions, $4,000 a month. Unfortunately, it had been cut to $1,000 a month. We must make sure that we honor the commitments that we make, and one of the ways that we do that, do not overpromise and then underdeliver and leave the taxpayers on the hook. I'll say this, Joe Biden should not be on the picket line. He should be on the southern border working to close our southern border because it is unsafe, wide open, and insecure, leading to the deaths of 70,000 Americans in the last 12 months because of fentanyl. It is devastating. Every county in America is now a border county because fentanyl has devastated Americans in every single state. I will also say 6 million illegal crossings since Joe Biden has taken office, and he eliminated Title 42. The one thing he should do is finish the wall, reinstate Title 42, and get the job done.
Well, I can promise you that we are going to have a lot of questions on the border and immigration. But in the meantime, we do want to talk about the economy and jobs, and especially want to talk about this strike for just a moment more. Mr. Ramaswamy, you've said you really empathize with the strikers. You're standing next to Senator Scott. Do you agree with what he said, or do you think he's wrong?
I agree with some of what he said, for sure. I like the spirit of it. I'll say that I don't have a lot of patience for the union bosses. I think that's where he and I actually have a common view. I do have a lot of sympathy for the workers, however. People are going through real hardship in this country. I've been through hardship growing up. My father stared down layoffs at GE under Jack Welch's tenure at the GE plant in Evendale, Ohio. My mom had to work overtime in nursing homes in Southwest Ohio to make ends meet and pay off our home loan. So I understand that hardship is not a choice. But victimhood is a choice, and we choose to be victorious in the United States of America. You know what, if I was giving advice to those workers, I would say go picket in front of the White House in Washington, D.C. That's really where the protest needs to be. Disastrous economic policies that have driven up prices, that have driven up interest rates and mortgage rates, at the same time wages remaining stagnant. What we need is to deliver economic growth in this country, unlock American energy, drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear energy, put people back to work by no longer paying them more money to stay at home, stabilize the U.S. dollar itself, and rescind a majority of those unconstitutional federal regulations that are hampering our economy. That is how we unleash American exceptionalism. And that's not a Democratic vision or a Republican vision. That is an American vision that we embrace economic growth, and capitalism is still the best system known to man to lift us up from poverty, and we should not apologize for it. That's what it means to be an American.
That was a very good statement by Vivek Ramaswamy. He looked very presidential there. He was also conciliatory to his fellow debaters, although they did not return that favor, and they looked bad doing it. Chris Christie, also on the stage last night, did himself very well. He was much better this time. He was much less pugnacious than he was in the first debate, and it served him well. This is New Jersey Governor, former New Jersey Governor, Chris Christie.
What I think artificial intelligence offers us is an extraordinary opportunity to expand well beyond the productivity that we have now, and to have Americans be able to be involved in that revolution, Dana. You know, each time we have shown incredible innovation and progress in this country. What we've done with it is to expand all kinds of new, even unthought of opportunities for folks. Yes, we have to do retraining for folks who lose some of their jobs, and we should be doing that. And we should have more training available both at the county college level and the local level for people to be able to access it. So yes, I would be in favor of that. But this is a much bigger issue than that. We can't be afraid of innovation. America has been the great innovator of this world over the last 250 years, a technological innovator, a manufacturing innovator, and a freedom and governmental innovator. And that's why America has to continue to stand strong in the world, pro-innovation, pro-progress. And I will tell you this, as President of the United States, what I will do is to make sure that every innovator in this country gets the government the hell off its back and out of its pocket so that it can innovate and bring great new inventions to our country that will make everybody's lives better.
All right, that was Chris Christie. He had another good moment that we also want to bring to the fore, as he, like I said, had easily his best performance so far. Of course, there have only been two, but this was much, much better for the former New Jersey governor.
And what we did was institute more charter schools and more Renaissance schools and more public school choice in New Jersey with innovative solutions in cities like Camden, where now we took what was the worst school district in America during my time, and we have now increased that by nearly 40% in terms of their proficiency. It can be done when you give people choice. But let's tell the truth to everybody about what this is. This public school system is no longer run by the public. It is run by the teachers' unions in this country. Randy Weingarten and her crew are absolutely strangling. They are taking the worst of their members and defending them rather than advocating for our kids. And when you have the President of the United States sleeping with a member of the teachers union, there is no chance that you could take the stranglehold away from the teachers union every day. They have an advocate inside the White House every day for the worst of their teachers, not for our students to be the best they can be. A President of the United States has to take on the teachers union. I did it in New Jersey, and I will do it as President of the United States.
All right. Like I said, Chris Christie had a very, very good night. That, by the way, that particular piece of video regarding who's sleeping with whom, yeah, that was not especially good. As a matter of fact, Mike Pence jumped into a situation where he tried to be jocular. It's a dad joke. It was not good, and this is what he said. It submerged his
President
point.
of the United States, I'll stand up for the safety and the civil liberties of every American from every background, and I want the American people to know that. But I want to answer the question as well, Dana, that you just asked Doug Burgum, because by way of full disclosure, Chris, you mentioned the president's situation. My wife isn't a member of the teachers union, but I got to admit I've been sleeping with a teacher for 38 years. And so full disclosure, look, education is a state and local function. The state of Indiana had one of the very first school choice programs in the country. And when I was governor of the state of Indiana, we doubled it. And as to your question, Dana, let's be very, very clear. When the Linn-Mar Community Schools in Iowa had a policy where you had to have a permission slip from your parents to get a Tylenol, but you could get a gender transition plan without notifying your parents, I weighed in with a foundation. That's not bad policy. That's crazy. We're going to stand up for the rights of parents, and we're going to pass a federal ban on transgender chemical or surgical surgery anywhere in the country. We've got to protect our kids from this radical gender ideology agenda, and we've got to empower parents at the state level with the ability to choose where their kids go to school, whether it's public, private, parochial, or homeschool. You empower parents, and our schools will straighten up and reflect our values and focus on the basics faster than you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, that was Mike Pence at his best, and that's what he does very, very well. He puts himself in a position where when he's discussing policy, and he's doing so in an honest and straightforward way, he is really very, very good. He is just plain amazing, in fact, and that was a very good response. But then again, you know, he is such a polished politician. You wonder if that's what we need more of. Do we need more polish and more politician, or do we need more human being? In that particular case, he sort of melded the two. But let's take a look at what Doug Burgum had to say last night. Let me see if I can get this to start. This is hopefully some sound by Doug Burgum, and it doesn't look like it's going to fly. So what I need to do is I need to obviously re-download that one, and we will during the break. So there are some reactions, in fact, that are currently coming through, as you might expect. There are people that are talking an awful lot about what has been going on. Let me see if I can find that stuff right here. Let me try to do that. Nope. Okay. Let me go back up to my stack of stuff, and we've made some stuff disappear, so I have to make it reappear. Anyway, there were an awful lot of people that had a lot to say. Some of them were very, very good, and some of them were essentially kind of tortured. But let's take a look at some of the people, conservatives and pundits, who were picking winners and losers last night. Reactions from conservatives on social media regarding the debate last night were highlighted on the Fox Business telecast. I think winners were Ron DeSantis and Doug Burgum, said Fox News host Will Cain. He posted that on X. This was what we expected the first debate from DeSantis. It wasn't a good night in my estimation for Nikki Haley and Tim Scott. When you constantly interrupt, it usually diminishes yourself, and I think that's what happened with Haley and Scott. Dana Lesh posted on X that DeSantis won the debate. Yeah, a lot of people are saying that. He shot down bad faith arguments without seeming unpleasant, and hit back with a record of achievements while rejecting clown show overtures. Everyone else on the stage is auditioning for VP, cable news, or a publisher for a book. My debate power rankings tonight: number 1, DeSantis; number 2, Burgum; number 3, Vivek; number 4, Nikki; number 5, Scott; number 6, Christie; number 7, Pence. Was the opinion from Outkick founder Clay Travis. DeSantis was the winner easily, said political commentator Meghan McCain, and we'll talk more about this as we continue here on the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. Hi, John David Wells at your service, giving you complete coverage of last night's GOP debate. By the way, we were able to find the Doug Burgum cut that we were looking for a second ago. And Doug Burgum had a very good night last night. This is a guy who is gamely hanging in. I can see a few people leaving the stage after this debate, but I certainly hope that Doug Burgum is not one of them. Check this out.
Because all night long we've been talking about issues about how it's broken in Washington, and I respect all of the people on the stage here for their 100+ years of public service. Thank you. But the reason why we're not talking about education or health care or safety being a problem in North Dakota is because we have a business leader. I've got more experience as a business leader than I think this whole group combined. I know I've created more jobs than everybody else on stage, thousands of high-paying jobs that have real meaning. So as a business leader, you come in and you treat the taxpayer like a customer. So in North Dakota, instead of fighting with the teachers unions, we actually created a K-12 coordinating council. Everybody gets in the room and the customer is the student.
But you do understand that this is an issue that many people in America really are concerned about, worried about parents and notification in schools.
Yes, and that's why we have 50 platforms of innovation. That's why we have states. There are certain things the federal government is supposed to do. It's not the Department of Education that needs to be assembled. We got to move it back to states. Do what we did in North Dakota. Instead of like, oh, here's a choice school and here's an old school, the old way with the teachers union, the kids are trapped. We made every school in North Dakota an innovation school. Every school got out from under the red tape, and the things that help teach the values that we're trying to get, like 4-H, like FFA, like Boy Scouts, they can get credit for all of that stuff in North Dakota. And by the way, North Dakota is now at the top of the median SAT scores in the country right now.
Yeah, that was a great statement by the North Dakota governor. He says, number one in media SAT scores. That is a hell of an achievement. And I got to bring this up. I do appreciate the moderations, the difficulty of moderating a presidential debate. But I have to be perfectly honest with you. There were times when the moderators got in the way, and that was one of those things. That was one of those things that you saw right there. It's one thing to have chaos among the candidates. It's a little different to have those moderators add to it. And that was a mistake. When you start talking about that, like, for example, Dana Perino, sorry. Dana Perino was somebody who was very much working hard to keep the candidates on track. Well, you really can't do that as a moderator, because what ends up happening is you end up looking like somebody who's essentially trying to impose themselves on a presidential debate. Dana Perino needs to remember that she is not running for president. She is trying to moderate a debate, and she just flat interrupted. She also came up with this really cutesy bit that probably sounded really good in a pre-production meeting, where somebody says, okay, you've been given pieces of paper and a Sharpie. Please vote. Please write down the person who you believe should leave the debates moving forward. In other words, being voted off the island. Every single candidate rejected that cutesy little game right out of hand. Now, that wasn't Dana Perino's fault, but that was one of those situations that somebody cooler heads must need to prevail when you're coming up with a way to do these particular debates. And they failed on that one. They really did. Because the candidates just wouldn't play ball with it. There was no reason for them to, because obviously one person said, hey, this is disrespectful to my fellow candidates that we would vote on somebody leaving the debates moving forward. That's ridiculous, especially when you consider that those people are up there not because they were picked by some talent coordinator somewhere. They were picked by the people of the United States through polling and through donations. And that being said, that was a really bad move. It was awful. And you'll be hearing more about that as the day continues. That being said, we did have this wonderful conversation between Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley. And it showed some of the great things about the debate and some of the bad things about the debate. One of the great things was Vivek Ramaswamy really looked very, very good in the debates last night. We'll continue this coverage as we bring you the news, the issues of the day, commentary, debate. It is the Wells Report.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
This is the Wells Report with John David Wells. Thank you very much for joining us. We are bringing the news to you, and the news, of course, is the GOP debate. And the Republican candidates got together last night. It was not much of an improvement over the first debate, although people were less nervous. In other words, they had smelled the smoke and they were actually moving forward a little smoother. But they still had major problems talking over each other and not looking presidential at all. They looked indeed like they were more confused or more interested in arguing with each other than actually discussing or debating policy questions. And this was one of those situations where Vivek Ramaswamy had a very, very good night in the debate, but was then engaged with Nikki Haley, and it shows the food fight potential of these candidates in these debates. Check this out.
So the answer is I have a radical idea for the Republican Party. We need to win elections. And part of how we win elections is reaching the next generation of young Americans where they are. So when I get into office, I've been very clear. Kids under the age of 16 should not be using addictive social media. We're only going to ever get to declaring independence from China, which I favor, if we actually win. So while the Democrats are running rampant, reaching the next generation 3-1, there's exactly one person in the Republican Party which talks a big game about reaching young people, and that's me. And let me level with all of you. I'm the new guy here, and so I know I have to earn your trust. What do you see? You see a young man who's in a bit of a hurry, maybe a little ambitious, bit of a know-it-all, it seems at times. I'm here to tell you, no, I don't know it all. I will listen. I will have the best people, the best and brightest in this country, whatever age they are, advising me. We will be probably many of the people on this stage included. That's how I built my companies. I want to be challenged. I want people who disagree with me. That's what makes America great, because we're not a perfect nation. We're founded on the pursuit of perfection. That is what makes America great. And that is why we will end it once we win this election.
I have to jump. I have to jump in here. I'm sorry.
Ramaswamy was speaking.
There's one person on this.
This is infuriating because TikTok is one of the most dangerous social media apps that we could have. And what you've got, I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say, because I can't believe they hear you've got a TikTok situation. What they're doing is these 150 million people are on TikTok. That means they can get your contacts, they can get your financial information, they can get your emails, they can get text messages, they can get all of these things.
This is very important for our party.
Exactly what they're doing.
This is very important for our party, and I'm going to say
you've gone and you've helped China make medicines in China, not America. You're now wanting kids to go and get on the social media that's dangerous for all of us. You went and you were in business with the Chinese that gave Hunter Biden $5 million. We can't trust you. We can't trust you. We can't have TikTok in our kids' lives. We need to ban it.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you have 15 seconds.
I think, excuse me.
You have 15 seconds, Mr. Ramaswamy.
Thank you. I think we would be better served as a Republican Party if we're not sitting here hurling personal insults and actually have a legitimate debate about policy, following Reagan's 11th Commandment in his honor. And the answer is that is what actually makes our country strong. And I believe in these people. These are good people on the stage. They disagree, but let's have a legitimate disagreement. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the perfect piece of video that that describes the kind of night the Republicans had last night. Moments of brilliance surrounded by moments of chaos. And it's hurting them all. It's hurting every single one of them. And it's something that simply has to stop. Now, like I said earlier in this broadcast, one of the things that makes Donald Trump look like Donald Trump is that he realized, or at least appears to have realized, that this is exactly the way it was going to go. That these people were going to be chewing on each other, stomping on each other, talking over each other, on mic and off mic, for crying out loud, and creating a mess. And he doesn't need to be a part of that mess. And I have to say this, Vivek Ramaswamy was laying out a vision for the way he was going to lead this country and trying to engage a younger vote. And when Nikki Haley said, every time I listen to you speak, I feel like I'm getting dumber, well, that's because maybe he's losing you in the conversation Governor Haley. Maybe it's because, well, your age is showing just a little bit. And maybe if you spent more time listening to what he had to say, you'd have more cogent replies to his policy statements. That's what a debate is all about. And Doug Burgum, who also had a very, very good night. That guy's a gamer. You know, he may be on the low end of popularity in the United States, but he makes very good statements, and he's got a great record. If he can withstand the financial onslaught that is required to win a nomination and then a presidency, with regards to all the things that are going to be unleashed in this campaign headed toward 2024, then he'll have something to say here. He will. So I have to say that when it comes right down to it, that particular video, it displays the worst of the Republican Party candidates. Getting back to conservative pundits saying what they believe about the debate, DeSantis was the winner easily, said political commentator Meghan McCain. This is one of those situations, it's very rare, where I actually agree with former Senator John McCain's daughter. New York Post's John Levin posted on X saying Nikki Haley was the winner. Sharp, consistent, unflustered, strong rejoinders, clarity, and her second strong performance. She did have a strong performance. But when she descends into bickering with her fellow candidates, she looks like somebody I don't know how to say this without sounding sexist, but she looks like a bickering housewife when she needs to look like a president of the United States. In my view, she would be very well served to start looking at Margaret Thatcher, and she would be able to learn how to handle this in a very straightforward way. She has great policy statements. Golda Meir, watching the recordings of Golda Meir might be a good thing. That's what I would do if I was in her campaign. Back up just a little bit. Stop being shrill. Make sure that you say your statements, like the one where she said, she even quoted Margaret Thatcher. She said, if you want to debate about a policy question, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. Very, very good. She needs to cling to things like that. Radio host Jason Rantz posting on X, Trump won the debate last night. DeSantis, a close second. No one candidate excelled the way he or she needed to because of, in large part, the chaos on the stage that derailed the answers too often. 7 GOP candidates were on stage at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. You know who they were, and that is some of the response that we're getting. And once again, there's another one from USA Today. Donald Trump was a no-show for the second Republican debate. He still came out on top. Susan Page writes this. Donald Trump won. At the second Republican primary debate last night, one that stretched for 2 hours, neither a question nor answer mentioned the 91 criminal counts the former president now faces in 4 jurisdictions. Juggling a broad range of issues, the 7 candidates on stage spent more time and energy attacking Vivek Ramaswamy, a political newcomer now scoring in single digits in national polls, than they did on President Trump, who, by the way, has a yawning lead over all of them. There were more attacks on Trump this time than in the first debate, but the jibes were often more simply for failing to show up on stage than for anything he has done as president or since then. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie dubbed him Donald Duck for dodging questions, but he wasn't taken to task in a concerted way for what could be a serious vulnerability in the GOP. His statement last week suggested he would negotiate a compromise on abortion, blurring the hard line on the issue that has defined the GOP for decades. Yeah, okay, Susan, and I appreciate that indeed. That's a well-reasoned article. But when you're talking about these kinds of things, it still comes down to the fact that why didn't the candidates talk about the indictments? Why didn't they? I'll tell you why. Because the vast majority of people in the United States believe that all of this is political. They believe that these charges, these 91 criminal counts, don't really account for much. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't surprise me at all if some of these cases are immediately thrown out on their ear, even with judges that may not necessarily be biased toward Trump, but rather biased away from him. It seems to me that a lot of these cases are just going to disappear, as they probably should. as they probably should, because these are politically motivated. That's why these people aren't hassling about them. Even the Biden campaign, President Biden, the administration, they're not talking about these indictments. And the reason they're not talking about these indictments is because most of the 74 million people, or at least a substantial portion of those voters, they believe they're political, and they also believe that they're irrelevant. It's been talked about in the newspapers for the last couple of days that the Biden campaign is setting up to run a rematch between President Biden and former President Donald Trump. Well, wait a minute. Their own party is the author of all of these indictments, all of these impeachments, all of these investigations that led nowhere. Why are they considering Donald Trump as a serious presidential candidate? The reason is because all of those things, all of those tactics, all of those political dirty tricks failed. And that's why the Republican candidates aren't talking about any of this stuff. It's a loser. It's an absolute loser. If anything, it worked exactly as the former President Trump said. I am one more indictment away from getting the Republican national nomination for president. That's exactly the way it's worked. If anything, showing up in Atlanta for a mugshot gave him street cred with people that he never had before. All of this stuff backfired. It all backfired because of the limitations of the people casting all of these aspersions. It all backfired. In other words, I talked about this, when you go too negative for too long, people stop believing that these negative charges have any reality whatsoever. This is exactly what's happened with the left's attack on Donald Trump. And so that's why you see Donald Trump as being declared the winner of last night's debate, even if he wasn't there, even when he was not there. I don't know when President Trump is going to start going to the debates. I don't know whether he ever will. I suppose he will at some point. When it comes down to, and if I had to pick them right now, Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be there in no particular order. Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, I believe Nikki Haley will be there, but she needs to tone it down just a little bit. I believe that Doug Burgum is probably on the low fringe, but could also make it. I believe that Mike Pence is going to have to throw it in. I believe that Chris Christie is going to have to throw it in. I believe that Tim Scott, although I personally like him very, very much, I like what he says about the United States. I like what he says there. I think I played this earlier, but I think I want to bring this up again. Let me play this. This is about a very positive and wonderful vision for the United States of America by Tim Scott. I like this a lot. Let me play this for you.
America has suffered because of slavery, but we've overcome that. We are the greatest nation on earth because we faced our demons in the mirror and made a decision. So often we think that all the issues, you talked about crime and education and healthcare, we always think that those issues go back to slavery. Here's the challenge though. Black families survived slavery. We survived poll taxes and literacy tests. We survived discrimination being woven into the laws of our country. What was hard to survive was Johnson's Great Society, where they decided to put money, where they decided to take the black father out of the household to get a check in the mail, and you can now measure that in unemployment, in crime, in devastation. If you want to restore hope, you've got to restore the family, restore capitalism, and put Americans back at work together as one American family. Our nation continues to go in the right direction. It's why I can say I have been discriminated against, but America is not a racist country. Never, ever doubt who we are. We are the greatest country on God's green earth. And frankly, the city on the hill needs a brand new leader. And I'm asking for your vote.
Yeah, that was brilliant. That was brilliant. That's Tim Scott. And once again, people are trying to dismiss him, but I want him to continue. He's very Reagan-esque in that speech. He spent an awful lot of time speaking about things the way Reagan would have said them. He talked about the shining city on the hill. He talked about America's greatest days being in front of them, not behind us. And that's what Tim Scott is doing. And so I believe that if you want to look at this, I want Tim Scott to stick with this. I'd like to see Doug Burgum continue. Nikki Haley, DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy. Those are the people that are going to move forward. I think it's curtains for Chris Christie. Although he had a very good debate performance, we'll see how long he lasts. And I do believe that Mike Pence may have seen the pinnacle of his political career, at least as far as the 2024 presidential election is concerned. What are your thoughts? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Tell us who you believe won the debate. Tell us who you might even think about voting for.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Breaking news as we come back on this particular segment as former President Donald Trump, his campaign is speaking about last night's debate. And it's interesting. I didn't see this one coming. This from Mediaite. The Trump campaign has asked the Republican National Committee to, quote, put an end to any further primary debates following the second debate that former President Donald Trump skipped. Now, this is, okay, them that don't ask don't get. But he must be joking. Anyway, that being said, it does point out a very canny political tactic. The statement was sent via email from President Trump's press office Before the debate had wrapped up, like most things Trump-related, it's equal parts unsurprising but still newsworthy. The note came from senior advisor Chris LaCivita, who called the second debate boring and inconsequential before touting Trump's lead in primary polling. However, he appeared to exaggerate the lead by a significant margin. LaCivita called to the end of future primary debates so the Republican Party could unite in efforts to defeat President Biden. However, he used a curious train our fire metaphor that is sure to raise eyebrows. I think that's nitpicking, frankly. I think Mediaite is being a little biased there. Here's the statement. Tonight's GOP debate was so boring and inconsequential as the first debate, and nothing that was said will change the dynamics of the primary contest being dominated by President Trump. President Trump has a 40 or 50-point lead in the primary election, a 10-point lead over Joe Biden in the general election, and it's clear that President Trump alone can beat President Biden. The RNC should immediately put an end to any further primary debates so we can train our fire on crooked Joe Biden and quit wasting time and money that could be going to evict President Biden from the White House. The chances that there would be no future primary debates are slim to nil, primarily due to the advertising revenue and media attention these events throw off. That said, Wednesday night debates did feel like a waste of time, given that the former president and presumptive nominee was not in attendance. So I was spending a little bit of time thinking about what was going on with regards to this debate and who won and who lost. As I said, I believe that Ron DeSantis was the winner. But if indeed the Trump assertion that these people are playing for second place, well, then who would be a good second place? I don't believe that Vivek Ramaswamy would be a good vice president. I don't believe that Nikki Haley would even consider the job. I do believe that Senator Tim Scott would be perfect, but we'd have to see how that dynamic would work. I believe that Tim Scott would be a perfect pairing with, say, for example, a perfect pairing with President Trump. So that being said, what do you think? 817-379-2172. The Republican Oversight Committee in the House of Representatives is having an impeachment inquiry hearing. Let's dip into just a little bit of that as we wrap up today's show. This is from C-SPAN. Thanks very much for them helping us out on this. This is the House Oversight Committee actually presenting hard evidence, or what they call hard evidence, to the nation.
Mr. Dubinsky, if you saw a text message like this in a potential money laundering operation or a potential pay-for-play operation, would you be looking for information related to money going from son to father?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Thank you. Next slide. Oh, this is a fun one. Ladies and gentlemen, this one is from 2018. This is about 4 months before Joe Biden launched his campaign for president of the United States, December 2018. The highlight is, this is a text message between Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden was in a bad way, by the way. He was really strung out. He lost a bunch of money. He needed help. Jim Biden says, "This can work. You need a safe harbor. I can work with your father alone." It'll probably take several months and everybody can read the text. Ms. O'Connor, Mr. Dubinsky, if you saw a text message like this between the president's brother and the president's son, wouldn't you be concerned about them trying to give plausible deniability for the president of the United States to not have any knowledge of said business dealings?
It's worth.
Gentleman's time's expired, but please answer the question.
It's worth investigating.
Mr. Dubinsky?
I would agree. I would investigate this.
I yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Before I recognize Mr. Christian Morte, Mr. Goldman, I will give you an opportunity to quickly recognize you for your point of order.
I just want to make sure that page 131 of the transcript of the Devon Archer interview is entered into the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Mr. Christian Morte from Illinois for 5 minutes.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Professor Turley, Hunter
So
Biden
that's
is a
what's going
private
on at this
citizen,
particular
not a
moment.
federal official,
Obviously,
right?
there will be an awful lot of discussion of this in the news tomorrow. And so that is also going on, a lot of moving pieces. And I can't bring up the moving pieces with regards to the American government today without without mentioning the subcommittee hearing on just exactly what happened in Lahaina, Maui, Hawaii, Maui, Hawaii, Florida. Anyway, I can't really move on without saying that is also happening today. That's something we will be covering on the Wells Report tomorrow. So, consequentially, a very, very big day news-wise, so much so it's really hard to keep track of it all. But that being said, we will continue to persevere on this broadcast to bring you the news in a fair and honest way, which we did do today. So the GOP candidates got finished with their debate, at least their second one. Will there be a third? Not if the Trump campaign gets their way. The executive producer of this broadcast is Dirk Steele. Dirk Steele has done an amazing job today. 13 videos produced this morning alone to make this show what it was. Dirk, thanks very much for your work. See you again tomorrow. All right. And there you go. Let's see here. What do I need to do? I need to do this. Chat room folks, thanks very much. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to get back to you. And it had solely to do with the fact that there was an awful lot of stuff to report today. Not making an excuse, just can't get everything taken care of at this particular moment. That being said, thanks very much for being with us. Make sure you wait for the Substack column to come up a little bit later on today. And what we'll do is see you again tomorrow for the Friday edition of the Wells Report. God bless you. Take care.